Share key. I can't see where I can share.
Okay, well, I'll have to share then my screen, okay? And so it
Okay.
just might be your voice on there.
Okay.
So,
And then I've got speaking notes, so what I'll do is I'll just say, after you've got slide 1 up, I'll just say slide 2.
sure, sounds good, yep. Okay, sounds good?
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thanks.
If I could figure it out. There's probably a way of doing this. I just haven't figured it out.
No, let's not worry about it now, it's
Okay.
too soon there, so I'll just share my screen, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Well, we can start like this and then whatever. Sure.
Let her out and then let her in. I'm in a meeting.
Okay. So welcome all. I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. I'd like to recognize the treaty territory we're on. So we recognize that Prince Albert is located within Treaty 6 territory and is the homeland of the Dakota and Métis. We extend our respect to all Indigenous people for their valuable past and present contributions and recognize and respect the cultural diversity within the city of Prince Albert. So the first order of business would be the approval of the agenda. Councilor Miller.
So moved, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, votes open. Councilor Lennox Zepp, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to accept it. Okay, thank you. Number 3, we have declaration of conflict of interest. If you have a conflict today, please disclose it with the city clerk. Number 4, adoption of minutes.
I'll move the adoption of the minutes from February 28th of 2022.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. Votes open. Councilor Lennox Zepp.
Yes.
Thank you. Looks like one more. Okay, accepted. Thank you. Number 5, delegations. We have a delegation today, concerns regarding property tax assessments for Guy Drive, virtual presentation by Dave. Sorry? Fisher? Fischel, thank you. Yeah, there he is. Go ahead, sir, you can start. Oh, we're on mute here. Hang on a second.
No, he has to do it.
Maybe on your end, Dave?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes, we can. Go ahead, sir.
There we go. All right. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'd love to be there, but I'm not. But thank you for having me this way. I'm here to discuss the property tax increase on our home at 49 Guy Drive here in Prince Albert. Is the presentation up on your side?
Just 1 second, yeah.
No, we can't drag this over. You have to share it.
Some technical difficulties there. 1 second.
You're not sharing. Share content.
There we go. Yep,
There we
your
go.
presentation's up.
Okay, well, thank you. That's slide 1, and that's 49 Guy Drive. That wasn't this winter. It was the winter before because there's a lot more snow here this winter. Slide 2, please. So in January of 2021, the city announced that there would be no increase in property tax revenue as they were going to hold the line on taxes. So we thought that, you know, taxes would probably be about the same. And then in January of 2021, our house was reassessed at a value of $572,000. The previous assessment was 3 years earlier, and I can't read what's underneath there, but I have it here, just a minute. At 515,700. So a difference of $56,300. But our property tax increased by 25.37%. Next page, please. Next slide, yeah. So our property value that was assessed in January of 2021, next slide. So here you can see where we were at 515 and then we went to 572. So the increase was an increased value of 10.92%. Slide 5. And we had our property tax went from $5,790 to $7,258 that year, which was an increase of 25.35%, which shocked us quite a bit. Next slide. So we pay by the month. So paying by the month, my taxes that I was paying by the month was $482 a month. And that was in June. And July, they went to $727 a month. And the reason why it increased so much is because we're paying by the month and we had to pay the difference in 6 months to catch up. So our increase for our house was $245 a month, or 51%. After it dropped in January of this year. It dropped it back to 604.84, which is still the 25.35%. Next, please. So what I did is I looked at kind of how that works. So we got the 482 June of 2021, 727 to catch up from July to December, and then 604.84 was what we're paying now. And then I looked at it as if we were to pay based on the increase of value, that 10 point, and I know that it's very more complicated than that, but if the increase was adjusted to the 10.92% increase of our property value, our payments would be $534.63 a month. So that was just something that I did to kind of show, you know, how steep it went, but really the price of our house only went up by 10%, almost 11%. Next one, please. So I know there are other homes in the city that got hit with this significant increase, and I know that a lot of the council members have probably heard of them. I also know that there were significant reductions in taxes for other homes. We all have the same fire, police, and street cleaning services, along with other basic services. And I believe a higher base tax needs to be considered to keep these taxes fair to all, because I believe a 25% increase is just not fair. And I'm asking council to have this adjusted. And I know I've talked to a lot of people that have the same issue as myself, and I've heard that there's close to 200 plus homes in the city that had that significant increase. Brad Toporowski called me today, Bob Schrader, Daryl Frenet, just to name a few. We all feel the tax increase is unacceptable, and considering we were told the tax revenue would not increase, this was a shock for us, and would like council to consider some options in reducing it. The way to positive change is to have the political will, and I believe you guys do, to make these adjustments to have a fair tax to all residents of the city of Prince Albert.
Thank you, Mr. Fischel, for your presentation. Is there any questions for our speaker? Okay, seeing none. Thank you for your time today, sir. Appreciate the presentation and some of the insight that you had lent us today. So,
yes, and thank you for allowing me to do this through Teams meeting. It was great, and I hope you guys have a chance to look at this, and we'll see where it goes. But thank you very much.
thanks again. Okay, is there a motion on the floor? Councillor Kilmer.
I'll move that it be received and filed.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? Questions? Seeing none then, we'll open up the vote. Councillor Lennox Zapp, how do you vote?
Yes.
Accepted. Okay, thank you. The next order of business we have is our consent agenda. Is there any items council would like removed off this list? Mayor Dion.
Well, I didn't see anyone put their light on, but they put their light on, so I won't move them yet in case he wants to pull one.
Okay, we'll go ahead and switch to Councillor Zarkowski.
Just a quick thought on 6.4, if I may.
Okay. 6.4.
And I'll move the balance.
Thank you. Any questions? See none. Open up the vote to remove the remainder items, save 6.4. Councillor Lennox Zapp, how do you vote? The consent
Yes.
agenda. Moving the rest of the items. Councillor Zarkowski had removed 6.4 and then moved the rest. Okay, so go ahead and accept that. Thank you. 6.4. Councillor Zarkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's important we learn from our experiences, and I think this may be one. I see the correspondence is authored by a single person, which is great information. I'm supportive of the initiative. I think it's fantastic to carry this conversation forward. But I think it's important that when we receive correspondence, that it comes from maybe it's reflected in a motion from that organization or that executive body, so that we know that that's a collective conversation on the will of any organization coming forward. So I think that's just my 2 cents I wanted to put on the floor today, that when we receive correspondence like this, it's a great first step. But I think going back to that organization, asking correspondence affirming their will, I think is important.
Thank you for that comment.
And I'll move to receive and file.
Okay, does the director want to weigh in on that topic at all? No? Okay. Motion on the floor then to, is there receive and file? Is there any other discussions? Okay, the vote's open. Councillor Lennox Zapp, how do you vote?
Yes.
Accepted. Thank you. Number 7, Truth and Reconciliation, 7.1. Verbal presentation by Judy McLeod. Is she here today? Okay, I'll get you set up at the podium. If I can remember how to do that.
March 14th.
Thank you. Yeah.
Tap on the block.
Yeah. Thank you, Judy, and go ahead. You're welcome to start.
Great, thank you. So thanks for the opportunity to present this report on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action and the efforts of the City of Prince Albert to address these calls to action to date. Just to give a little bit of background, I'm sure people are aware, but the Truth and Reconciliation Commission documented experiences of Aboriginal students in residential schools and the resulting intergenerational impacts. Canada's relationship with Aboriginal people has suffered because of the Indian residential school system. Healing and repairing that relationship will require education and an increased understanding of the legacy and the impacts still being felt by everyone involved in that relationship. And on June 12, 2015, the TRC released calls to action for reconciliation for governments and many other organizations and stakeholders, and those were attached to your report. Guiding this action are the principles of reconciliation, which were also attached to the report. The goal, obviously, is being renewed relationships that are based in mutual understanding and respect. As you know, Prince Albert has an Aboriginal population of 42%, and this is the census from 2016, so it may have increased as well. We are situated on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Dakota and the Métis Nations, and we have a real opportunity to be a leading municipality towards reconciliation. The term, I may use Aboriginal, I may use Indigenous, and that includes First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of Canada. And the term also includes very distinct groups within those peoples with unique heritage, languages, cultural practices, and spiritual beliefs. The report in this presentation will endeavor to provide information kind of in 4 sections. The first being a summary of the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action that are relevant to municipal government. The second is the efforts of the City of PA towards reconciliation and a stronger, more unified city. A brief summary of reconciliation action undertaken by the City of Saskatoon, and then considerations to further the city's efforts. So starting with the calls to action that are relevant to municipal government, Everyone could read the 94 actions and analyze it a different way. I came up with 12 that you found in your report, and I just want to highlight a couple. Collaborate to develop and implement an action plan, promote public dialogue for reconciliation, and monitor and report annually on reconciliation efforts, and that's number 53. Number 57, to educate public servants on the history of Aboriginal peoples, intercultural competency, conflict resolution, human rights, and anti-racism. Number 77 and 79 talk about participating in a strategy to commemorate Aboriginal people's history and contributions to Canada. And number 92, which is ensure Aboriginal people have access to jobs, training, and education opportunities, and they benefit from economic development. As I mentioned, that's just a few highlighting of the 12 that I felt related to municipal government. Also attached to your report is a more comprehensive list of the actions that the city has undertaken to date. And within that chart, you will see that which call to action it addresses. So I'm just going to highlight in quick summary a few of those things. The Municipal Cultural Action Plan, Aboriginal awareness training for all permanent employees, land acknowledgement, like the one provided at the beginning of this meeting, the Cultural Diversity and Protocol Policy, supporting the development of the Prince Albert Urban Indigenous Coalition and Community Building Youth Futures, working with the Knowledge Keepers Committee, the Indigenous Naming Initiative, and the River Street Signs as the first project, creation of the PREDA, the Prince Albert Regional Economic Development Alliance, event support through waiving of fees, community grant, and destination marketing, consultation with the Wapeda Dakota Nation on the Little Red River Master Plan, educational signage about the ancient Dakota village, what is now Little Red River, to be installed, the flags that we see outside in Memorial Square, Treaty 6, Métis Nation of Saskatchewan, and the Truth and Reconciliation flag, the designation of the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and the naming of 3 parks along the riverbank in honor of 3 Indigenous veterans. That just highlights a few of the initiatives undertaken. The third section, and this was part of the City Council resolution from August of 2021, was to look at the City of Saskatoon. They've been working on reconciliation for several years and in partnership with many groups. Some examples of their actions are Race Relations and Cultural Diversity Committee and Coordinator, a Director of Indigenous Initiatives, MOU and agreements with Saskatoon Tribal Council and SIIT, a partnership with the Office of the Treaty Commissioner, renaming of the Chief Mistawassis Bridge, and there are many more, and those were attached to your report. You'll note that the City of Saskatoon Police Department actions are also provided, and that's something that we haven't taken a look at here in PA, is all the work done by our local police department. So the final section, considerations for to further the city's efforts. Again, we have a real leadership role that we can play, and we can work towards Reconciliation Saskatchewan's vision, which is a shared understanding of our history, authentic relationships, strong cultures and interwoven worldviews, and social, economic, and political change. So some future potential actions could be incorporation in the new strategic plan and the official community plan, ways that governance can work with PAGC and the Métis Western Region 2, as well as others, a committee and staff, human resources to support this work in a strategic, purposeful, and meaningful way, internal structures and systems that facilitate each department to work on reconciliation in their respective areas as a whole and in partnership with external community groups and organizations, review and inclusion of the Prince Albert Police Service and Commission work, and of course, communicating the work that we do towards reconciliation. So thank you again for the opportunity to share this information that was compiled.
Thank you. Mayor Dion.
I'll move the recommendation, and thank you for your report, Judy.
Any other comments? So, Councillor Godnick.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Judy, for your report. And I think when I first saw this at Agenda Review with the Community Service Advisory, I was shocked at how much we actually already are doing. And I think that's part of our problem as a city when we're criticized people, and it's partially our fault that we have not communicated all the different initiatives that we do in many different things. And this is one where we are trying to implement the recommendations, the calls to action. And this extensive list, or partial list, because we do a lot more than just this, shows that we are taking this serious and we are trying to implement the calls to action. So I thank you for highlighting that for us today and for the public to see what the city is actually doing and trying to do in reconciliation. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grodnick. And I would just add a couple comments. I did read this report in our Community Service Advisory Committee. Very, very happy to see the work that went into it and highlighting all the work that's been done within the city here. I do like some of the suggestions about here's some things to consider that we can take some actions on. So I'll be mindful of that, and I'm sure those conversations will be ongoing. Looking at some of the work that the city of Saskatoon has done, you know, they did have a little bit of a head start, I would say, on some of their work, but definitely would like to see that modeled here in Prince Albert, or parts of that as well, looking at signing MOAs and or partnerships with some of our Indigenous groups within the city. So thank you, great work on this. One thing I think I would note, and I know that may not been included, was some of the cost of these implementation of these calls to action. However, I think moving forward, we'll see what that work looks like. But thank you very much, Judy, for that report. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none.
Tara,
Oh, yes.
Carolyn, if I may.
Of course. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for the report, and it is really positive to be able to see the work that has been done on this very important issue. And as the report lays out, there are lots of good initiatives that we as a city can pursue in an ongoing basis, and I think that's really important as well. We have done good work, and there is still a lot to do. And as the report points out, there are still those action items from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that pertain specifically to the municipal government, and that we can pursue those items. So I'm hopeful going into the future that we will see us as a city continue the good work and add to what we've already done. Thank you.
And Councillor Lennox, I'll go ahead and open the vote then. Councillor Lennox,
Yes.
accepted. Okay, so our next item, 7.2, and again, we have a presentation by Judy McLeod along with Mary Longman. Sorry? Longman, yeah. So we'll go ahead and I'll start your mic. Oh, good. Go ahead, Judy.
Great. Thank you. So thank you for the opportunity to present the Public Artwork Commission that the Public Art Working Group has been saving for, as approved in the 6-year Public Art Plan. I want to acknowledge and introduce the Public Art Working Group, as well as the artist, Mary Longman, that we've been working with here today, and to thank them for their vision, passion, contributions, and time towards public art in Prince Albert. So with us today, we have Judy McNaughton at the back here. Unfortunately, there was a few others that were hoping to make it, but this went faster than they expected. Lana Wilson, Jesse Campbell, Roxanne Dick on behalf of the Arts Board, Wes Moore, and Marcus Miller, who is on vacation, I believe, somewhere warm. So I'm going to provide some background, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mary to speak to the artwork. So the Public Art Plan was developed in 2016 with a vision and mission statement and a 6-year plan for public art. At that time, the City of Prince Albert Public Art Working Group had a vision for a significant public artwork in our city, a permanent public artwork that would have a true impact for our community. The group agreed that the artist they would commission, if she was willing to accept, was Mary Longman, a nationally and internationally recognized artist, provincially known for her iconic bronze sculpture installation, Ancestors Rising, displayed in front of the Mackenzie Art Gallery in Regina. The sculpture visible from Albert Street has become a much-used symbol of Regina as a destination for art and culture. The Public Art Working Group found that the yearly allocations of $30,000 to the group would never cover an art installation of such an impactful scale. And you'll remember from the public art policy, the annual allotment has been $30,000 most years. Therefore, each year since 2017, the working group has set aside a portion of this annual funding allocated for public art in order to build a fund for this commission. That allotted fund has now reached its target amount, and with a matching grant Mary has received from Canada Council for the Arts, all funds are in place and we're ready to proceed. We are fortunate that Mary has contributed her vision for a prominent bronze sculpture to be installed in PA next to the E.A. Rawlinson Centre for the Arts and visible from River Street. As Mary states in her description, the sculptural installation Passage Home is a memorial and commemoration to Indigenous children who died away from home and those who are still finding their way back home as a result of day schools, residential schools, and the 60s scoop. The work commemorates survivors who are still grieving and healing today. This artwork will be one of Canada's first memorial sites dedicated to Indigenous children and a place to acknowledge this history. It responds to the Truth and Reconciliation Call to Action number 83 for Canada Council for the Arts to undertake collaborative projects and produce works that contribute to reconciliation, and number 79, which speaks to commemoration. The bronze sculpture of a traditional travois carrier, and I see we have it up for you to view, symbolically offers a safe passage for children to return to their families and territories of origin and to rest in peace. The location of the sculpture and healing garden is near the banks of North Saskatchewan River, which is a historical meeting spot, Kestepananique, as we know, a place of first encounter between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people and a destination for people from the north and the south at the heart of our province, a province in need of healing. This site at its heart will designate a place where this healing can occur. I would now like to introduce Mary. She's joined us through Microsoft Teams and provide an opportunity for her to share a bit more about her artwork, Passage Home. Mary's a Saulteaux band member from Gordon First Nation and currently lives in Saskatoon. She's an established artist with a master's in fine art and a PhD in art education. She's exhibited her art nationally and internationally. Please note that on the PowerPoint that we'll be sharing, the images of the site plan have changed since the one included in your report. And that's because Mary took some feedback from our Parks Department and the Community Services Advisory Committee to just widen the path in one section. So I'll turn it over to Mary. Mary, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to sharing what I can with the work. Judy has said most of the things that I was going to say, so I'm not sure what's left. I should mention, I think you mentioned that I'm Saulteaux, from Gordon's First Nations, and my Indigenous name is Aski Piasuskwe. And I'm really excited about this piece. It's very timely. When we started working on this piece, it was before there was the finding of the first initial graves at the residential school in Kamloops. So, so this has always been on my mind as I've done a lot of political activism in regard to Indigenous children, especially for Indigenous 60 scoop children, because I was a part of that system for 11 years. And so I've witnessed what happens behind closed doors, and I've seen children die. And so this is why this work here looks not just at a residential school, but also 60 scoop children as well as day school children. And as Judy said, this is an important memorial piece, one of the first in Canada, dedicated to the Indigenous children, but also it's a commemoration piece as well. So, because there are children that are still trying to find their way back home and find their families and their territory where they come from. And then there's these survivors that are still struggling with their healing process. So I wanted to honor them, and also for parents to go to a spot to grieve too as well. So and people to go to this healing garden to grieve and to reflect and to pay homage to these children. Could we just step back a bit before, I just want to say, I'm wondering if we can, you can see this is a traditional travois, so you've seen the report, and so basically it's a carrier for when you're transporting, relocating camp or going to a hunting and fishing camp. So they tie everything to the back of this travois on these lodge poles, but they would make carriages if they had a few children so they wouldn't fall out and they're contained within it, and they'd sit on a bison robe. And I don't know, can you zoom in on the moccasins, Judy, just so they could see? So inside this bison robe is rows and rows of moccasins that are from different groups within, the prairies, especially Saskatchewan. See different styles like Cree and Dene moccasins, for example. Is there a way to zoom into that or no?
No, there's not.
Okay. Well, that's what it is, and this is going to be a really unique piece because these will be hand colored, and you rarely see bronze hand tinted, so the beads are going to be actually colored. I know only got 5 minutes, so I won't go on too long, but I just wanted to give you an idea of the symbolism of this work and also the materials that'll be in as in bronze. It's all bronze, but there's going to be some really advanced patina processes, so there's going to be different colored tones, and it's going to sit on a big boulder, rest on a big boulder. So it's by the Ralston, but beside the courthouse, that long strip that goes towards the river. Now we can go to the other slide. Yes, so initially I had a super wide path, but I decided to cut down on costs and but also to go with the city rules about pathways and all this. I decided to make this one 5 feet, so there's wide enough for a skid steer. It's ample enough for wheelchair accessibility, and so it's 5 feet wide for the most part. And then in the center of the path, there is the piece itself where this path splits into 2 pathways and comes back on the other side. The sage color in the middle is because the piece sits on a sage in a sage garden. So that's part of this healing garden, what I call the healing garden. And so, and as you know, sage is used for smudging and for ceremony. And then there's, we're going to have 5 to 6 trees, and we're going to alternate them for optimum privacy for people. Same with the benches. And we'll probably use some city benches. We're looking at even refurbishing Meewassins. I'm working with Seymour Green, and they've worked with your city, and they've done a lot of work here in Saskatoon. They're experts and they really know their business. And I'm attracted to them because they like doing creative work, and they also work green, obviously. So they're interested in works that, doing works that are not harmful to the environment, has the least footprint, and using safe materials and so on. So this is right up my values of how I want this to go. So they're gonna give me a lot of assistance in recreating the space so it's a just a place of peace and harmony, and I think the public will really enjoy sitting in that space and reflecting. Is there another slide there, Judy, or? Oh, just a detail. Okay. Should I take any questions or?
Yes, sure. Thank you for that presentation and a description of your art piece. Is there any questions from council? Councillor Godnick.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you for your presentation, and Judy, thank you for all your work and the committee's work on this, what I think is a very appropriate installation that's going to happen in Prince Albert. And once again, I've said this before, when it comes to the arts, we're one of the national leaders in many things. We bring in the gallery, the Man Art Gallery brings in unbelievable installations and discussions that are very pertinent to today. And our art and our work that we're doing is also very, very important. I think it was brilliant, whoever decided this location to be a place of peace. In the name, Passage Home, to the banks of the river, which is the gathering place of where our first peoples gathered for thousands and thousands of years. And we're saying, we're bringing them home to a respectful place that at one time where their culture flourished and thrived. It's very powerful, and the art, I can't wait to see the installation. The description by the artist, thank you for that important description of the moccasins and everything that you're talking about in this installation. The trees, like that's Tim again, right? Tim Yeaman, his knowledge. Like again, we have somebody that's so talented in horticulture, and he's specifically putting particular types of trees that'll fit this installation. The pebble, river pebble rock for the path. I mean, everything is just brilliant. And so I don't have a question. I just want to thank you. And thank you, Judy, and your committee for doing this. And I'm very proud that Prince Albert is again, once again, a leader in these kinds of initiatives. And thank you. I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Godnick. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the landscaping is actually my work. That I designed, picked out the plants and all that.
Thanks for that clarification. Councillor Zurkowski.
Mary, thank you for your work on this, and thank you for the work you're going to do. It's going to add a lot of richness and culture to our community, and I too am very excited. I know all members of council are excited to see this come to fruition, so I guess in advance, and hopefully we can have you up to the beautiful city of Prince Albert to more than once during the installation, so thank you for that. Judy, thank you to you and your committee as well. This has been a few years in the making and a lot of determination, I know. I do have a question, if I may. The pathway itself, is it going to be a stamped decorative sort of pathway, or is it are the stones going to be embedded in concrete? I guess my real question is, will it be wheelchair accessible?
Yes, I purposely made it that width to have wheelchair accessibility, so it's 5 feet in width. And we are still looking at the stone. We want something flat and stable so that, that you can roll across it with wheels or bikes, and high heel shoes won't get caught up in between the rocks. So kind of wanted something that was flat, and I'm really looking hard at slate. And I think the blue gray would be a real complement to the gold and bronze, I think. But yeah, if we pack it in tightly enough, I think it'll be really beautiful. Yeah. But that's still TBA. We're still working on that. We are all about getting local materials. And so we're going to take a closer look at all the quarries and see what we can come up with.
Good stuff. Thanks, Mary. That brings some comfort for me. We've worked very hard here to make sure all our facilities are accessible to all, whether you have mobility issues or not. So thank you for that consideration. And again, congratulations and thank you.
Sorry. Is there any other questions or comments?
Tara Lennox-Zapp.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Lennox-Zapp.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank the artist for being here today. My question, however, is for administration. I've received a question from a constituent. When looking at the report, there's a section in the report titled Consultations, and it lists, who has been consulted with on this. It's listing the Public Art Working Group. However, it does not, I don't believe the report mentions that any Indigenous groups are consulted yet in terms of location or any of this. And I'm just wondering if administration could advise on that. So the question I received from the member of the public was asking me, shouldn't Indigenous organizations be consulted on this, specific to location before proceeding? So that's the question I received, and I'll put that question to administration.
Thank you, Councillor Lennox Zepp. Judy, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I can speak to it for sure. When we started, as I mentioned, when the Public Art Working Group, first of all, the policy was adopted in late 2016, and then the public art policy with the $30,000 per year budget, right? And we started saving for this commission. We actually had chosen Kinsman Park at first. And as you know, it took a long time, right? At 30 and less than $30,000 saving a year, because we did do some other smaller projects. We recognized that the location, things change, and the location may not be as appropriate or ideal as we once thought. So when the Sisters in Spirit monument was installed, different changes that have happened at Kinsman Park, we decided as a working group to work towards the riverbank. And then after the Sisters in Spirits monument was, and we knew that that was going to be installed years ago, we looked at that whole area, right, as an area for ceremonies, for gatherings, for reflection, for healing. And so we felt it important to really keep that work there. As noted in the report, we always knew we've been saving for a commission with Mary. So we knew the artist, we knew her work, and then it was just the location that shifted. In terms of working, like, I'm not sure if that means specific groups like Prince Albert Grand Council. No, not specifically. Again, it's a plan that was made by the working group and did shift a little bit.
Thank you for that. Mayor Dion.
Well, I think we've got our consulting. I'm honored with the artists that we've hired. I am so pleased, and I know you know your culture and everything else, so I'm not worried about any of that project. You're our consultant. You're the only person that we need to talk to. I want to wish you the best and good luck in searching out the material, and thank you for being part of our community.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, then we'll go ahead and vote. Votes open. Councillor Lennox Zepp?
Yes.
Accepted. Mayor Dion, yeah. Oh, no, sorry, I'm Groton. Yeah, Councillor Groton. And accepted. Okay, thank you. Number 8, unfinished business. Seeing none. Number 9 is an adjournment. Councillor Kilmer,
I'll move to adjourn.
any discussions on that? Seeing none, open the vote. 5:30, 45 minutes. Votes open. Councillor Lennox Zepp?
Yes.
Accepted. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Thank you very much.